Hey, everybody.
I'm
Welcome
Bill.
to the Retro Repair Roundup episode. And I don't even know what episode number this is. It's episode 60. It's our 60th episode. It seems like it's been more than that. Maybe it seems like it's been less than that. I guess it depends
Yep.
on which side of the microphone you're on, right? But hi, everybody. Welcome to the Retro Repair Roundup. I'm one of your many hosts, Ron from Ron's Computer Videos. Let's go through real fast, say hi to the folks in chat, and then we'll do some introduction with our hosts, and then we'll get right to our interview with Amiga Bill. I want to say hi to Pi Gravity, Cami, Sojournborn. I might say a few things wrong, and I apologize.
Sigurborn.
Sigurborn. Thank you for coming and hopefully being kind that I got your name wrong. Josh Malone is here. Scrolling down, One Bit Fever Dreams is here as well. Good to see you. Scarlett is here. Life School is here. Good to see everybody. Stefano. Fishbot is here, who says, hi, Bill. That's a good one out of the gate. Joe from Joe's Computer Museum. Joe, as you'll notice, Joe isn't here tonight. He's had kind of some life stuff come crashing down on this Sunday evening. And so he's handling all that, but he's hanging out in the audience and wishing us well tonight. MacFX is here. Dave from Dave's Vintage Apple Tech. Ian Scott, Garth Beagle. Francois is here. Retro Tech or Die. Daniel Mackey. Let's see.
Gut bomb.
John Francois Pear is here. Yeah, Gut Bomb is here as well. Scrolling. It looks like we got everybody. So if I missed your name, I apologize, but thank you for showing up anyway. We always Curtis Boyle just made it. So but thanks to everybody who stopped by to see us. Let's go through very quickly. We'll do some introductions and then we'll get right to our interview with Amiga Bill. Javier.
I'm Javier. You know me, Headmaster. I burn things and do crazy things. Sean.
I'm Sean Fahey, and I'm Javier's nemesis.
That's right.
And I'm Ron from Ron's Computer Videos, of course. But our special guest tonight, and I know that you have had an incredibly busy day today, Bill. So I appreciate you because I know you do Sunday Fun Day, and that is many hours of content on a Sunday, and for you to tack this on top, again, we really do appreciate you taking a few minutes to come and spend it with us. So, Bill, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
My pleasure, guys. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Amiga Bill. My real name is Bill Winters, but I'm known as Amiga Bill in the community. I've been an Amiga fan and user since I got my Amiga 500 in 1987. And then in 1988, I founded, I can tell you the whole story, but founded the Westchester Amiga User Group. We're an Amiga user group in Westchester County, New York. And believe it or not, we were meeting, on the first Thursday of every month since 1988, and we never stopped and never will. And we still do it to this day. I also am a content creator. I do live Twitch streams about the Amiga every Sunday. We call it the Sunday Fun Day. And they're really cool. It's almost like a podcast, even though it's on Twitch. I try and catch up on all the latest things that are going on in the Amiga community. Like today, I had an awesome guest, Life Schools, in the chat. He is one of the people behind lemonamiga.com, which is a really important website in the Amiga community. It's like the ultimate Amiga games resource. And last week, I had someone on named Jeff Bruette, and he told us an amazing story. He's selling a portrait that Andy Warhol did of Deborah Harry at the launch of the Amiga event at Lincoln Center back in 1985. He's got this the only copy of this piece of artwork that Warhol did, which actually took place before the launch of Amiga event, and he told us the whole story behind it. So Jeff was awesome. Next week I have another great guest coming on. He's the creator of AmiKit. So every week I try and get on some interesting guests. So anyone who's doing anything cool in the Amiga community, it doesn't matter if you're a former Commodore engineer. I've had lots of those on, or you're just someone who's doing something cool in the Amiga community now. I love to get the community involved, and I love to play new Amiga games. I like to play the classic Amiga games, of course. But my streams are all about community interaction. So we have a great time there every Sunday. And I still do some YouTube stuff. My buddy Anthony from Westchester Amiga User Group and I, we had a channel called The Guru Meditation. We still have it. I need to do more YouTube videos, but the streams have kind of taken over my life right now. But I do plan on doing some more YouTube videos. We interviewed a lot of, Amiga legends like Dave Haney and Bill Hurd and Glenn Keller and Greg Berlin. So we have interviews with those guys up there. Hopefully they're evergreen and they stay, because the idea is that we preserve the history.
Yeah.
So there's that channel, and then I have my AmigaBill YouTube channel as well, where they're more like snippets. They're the entire streams and snippets from the streams, because not everyone wants to sit there and watch a 4-hour video. Sometimes they do, which is awesome, but sometimes it's nice just to have some like bite-sized pizzas too.
Yeah.
Have that on the YouTube channel. So yeah, Amiga user group, Amiga streams on Twitch, YouTube videos. That's me.
That's awesome. And again, it's I met you finally in person at VCF East this year, and we sat on a panel together and just kind of talked about content production and getting started, and just kind of getting over the fears of just putting yourself out there and talking about things that you're excited about. And so your energy really inspired me, because you can tell that you absolutely love this topic and you love the Amiga community so much so that, I mean, you've stuck with it for all these years. There's a lot of people that use the pandemic kind of as an excuse to get back into the hobby, but it's always great to talk to people that it's like that passion never went away, that you've stuck with it since then. But again, just on a personal note, thank you for kind of helping to preserve all this history, because a lot of these interviews and such, we're only going to have these folks around for so many years yet, and then we ourselves are only going to be around for so many years yet. So it's really great to make sure that that stuff is there for that next generation and preserve that history. And I thought that was really amazing about the Lincoln Center Warhol painting and things like that, and kind of like what the valuation is on all that. It's just really amazing, like how expensive like this one of a kind thing kind of is. That's a lot of paintings of Kansas soup, let's say that.
Yeah, well, they're really rare, and there's also a print. Jeff, he was able to snag the print, because when Andy Warhol was actually making that artwork on the Amiga, his final destination was print. Like, he wasn't making these digital images to stay digital. He wanted to print them. So he had a printout that he made. And when Jeff went back to Commodore, the headquarters, like not too long before they shut down, he literally saw the print in his former boss's office, like sitting in the corner, and he was just like, "Oh, can I have that?" And he gave it to him. So he's got the print, and he's got the floppy disks with like 10 images in it, and there's even some images on the disc that Jeff doesn't know how to open, because they're a very unique file format that was kind of like a pre-release file format. So I imagine the Amiga community could definitely come together and figure out how to view those images, because they're incredible. So I'm sure we could see those images. But yeah, it's an incredible collection. I'd never heard the story before. I've heard a lot of Commodore stories, a lot of Amiga stories. I've heard a lot of the engineers talk at events throughout the years, on my stream, at different events. And some of the stories, you get to know the stories, but when Jeff came on, these were like totally new. I'd never heard these stories before. It was pretty crazy.
It's pretty amazing. What do you think is the most exciting thing happening right now in the Amiga community? I mean, it never seems like anything ever stops very long. Like, new games are released all the time, new hardware and ways to. There was kind of a point where, when the Raspberry Pi kind of came around, especially for like the 500 and some of the lower end machines, that it was just like, we've moved our computer over to the Pi, and now the computer is basically the interface, to a lot of those things. But I know there's purists, and so there's all these amazing things happening all the time. What do you think is maybe the most emergent and important thing for Amiga enthusiasts to focus on right now?
It's hard to pick like a single thing. I think it's all the above. It's everyone who's making new games. It's everyone who's making new software. Everyone who's making new hardware. Like, for example, in my Amiga 1200 I have here, I've got a Terrible Fire 1260 card, and I always dreamed of having an 060 back in the day, but I could never afford one. But now Terrible Fire makes these really cool cards that are affordable. The 060 is expensive, but the card itself is pretty inexpensive. If you have a Rev 1, 060 is not too bad. But people making like new hardware. My 1200 is in a brand new case. It's a really cool translucent red case. I have these LED lights that are sync with the audio coming out. So it's just fun stuff, like cosmetic stuff. But then there's important things too, like, hard drive replacements, because spinning platter hard drives fail. So you can replace it with an SD card or a compact flash card. So all these things that are being done to like preserve the actual hardware is really important. And then, like you talked about the Raspberry Pi, emulation is super important as well. I just picked this up like right before our Westchester Amiga User Group summer meeting. This is the A600 GS. It's basically It's kind of like a Raspberry Pi. It's an ARM processor in there. It's a Pi 03 in there. But the idea behind this is supposed to be like the Amiga of the future, and it's based on AROS, and they're building libraries in the workbench that hit the ARM chip directly. And they're saying, ARM is the future of Amiga. So, the idea is to have people develop for the ARM chip using this little box. And it's cool. It's got like 9-pin joystick ports on the back of it. It's got, analog audio out, which is neat because I can plug it into my mixer. It's got Bluetooth, so you can connect your Bluetooth headphones or your Bluetooth controller. So this is like one of the things. It's not for everyone. Like I think this definitely has there's definitely pros and cons to it. So far, I'm having a blast with it. But this is awesome. The Raspberry Pi itself is great. The Raspberry Pi 5 is amazing. I got this thing called AmiKit on it and Pi Amiga. It's so cool. Some people take their Raspberry Pis and put them in their Amiga and use them as kind of like accelerators, which is really fun too. And there's really no right or wrong. I'm just happy that we have all these options, and you can choose to enjoy Amiga any way you want, whether it's with the real hardware or with emulation through the Raspberry Pi or a hybrid of both.
Oh yeah, it seems really like a device like that would be especially handy for people that want to do streaming. That you could just you can hook it up in a very easy way to modern stuff and not have to take that RGB to HDMI trip and then upscale and all of those type of things. So if you wanted to show off some of the latest stuff, I'm only guessing that it has backward compatibility with a lot of the older Amigas.
Yeah, backward compatibility when it comes to emulation is tricky, and not because people in the Amiga community like to push it, and there's a lot of demos and stuff that are even hard to get to run on the real hardware.
Yeah.
So but yeah, it's pretty compatible. The trick is that you can load the actual Amiga ROM chips onto it. It doesn't come with those. It comes with this thing called AROS, which is like an open source sort of ROM for the Amiga. The idea is to break free from the classic Amiga ROMs, but you can load the actual Amiga ROMs onto it, and that makes it much more compatible. So it's cool. It's a little bit different than the Raspberry Pi. The Raspberry Pi 5 is technically a faster, more powerful device. But it just cuts some corners, makes some things easier for you. It's got the 9-pin joysticks built into it. Whereas if you have a Pi, you have to get an adapter that can do that. No big deal, but it's one less step you have to do. This is, like I said, it's got the analog audio out, which I love for my streams because I can plug it right into my mixer instead of having the HDMI audio out.
Right.
Which is cool. And then they have other things too, like the A500 Mini, which has opened up Amiga to a lot of people, because that actually, I don't have one here. It's at my other place, but it looks like a miniature Amiga 500, which is really neat. So it tugs on all the nostalgia strings. So folks who maybe didn't have an Amiga back in the day or had one but left Amiga, when they see that little Amiga 500, they're like, oh, that's so cool, I want to get that. And it comes with 25 games on it. So that's neat too. There's just a lot of options. And of course, all the great emulation on the PC as well. WinUAE is the ultimate Amiga emulator. At the end of the day, that one is the most compatible, but it's on a PC, so you don't quite have that experience. When I'm emulating Amiga, I like to have a separate device, ideally a separate device to do it.
Yeah.
And then even if you do it through the PC though, you can do it on Linux or Windows. There's something really cool called Amiga Live, which is a really exciting thing that happened in the Amiga community. It's a way to play online multiplayer Amiga games. So let's say you had you can have up to 6 players. Let's say you have Dyna Blaster. Normally you would have 4 people sitting around an Amiga playing against each other. But on Amiga Live, it uses an emulator called FSUAE, and it has a way that you can connect people, network people on a server. So it kind of emulates people sitting at a real Amiga playing together. But I can be in New York, someone else could be in Europe, another person could be in Australia. It doesn't matter. All over the world, just dial into one of the servers and you guys can play against each other, with each other. It's so cool.
That's really great,
isn't it? Oh,
What's
sorry.
that?
I say kind of like FujiNet.
Yeah, it is like FujiNet.
Okay.
Sort of. Yeah, it's all based. It's really easy to use as well. You just go to AmigaLive.com and you can download the games. FujiNet, I think, is a little more sophisticated. I know FujiNet on the Atari 8-bit stuff, which is awesome. I've seen Thomas Jerry Holmes demonstrate it at BCF East, but I haven't actually used FujiNet myself, so it's hard for me to actually do a proper comparison. But it's similar, from what I've seen, it's similar to FujiNet. Yeah.
That's very cool. I'm always impressed because I'll go out and I'll look at AmigaWorld.net or something like that, and just to see what the latest greatest stuff, or I'll check in on your stream just to see I don't always follow the conversation just because I'm not in that world the way that you're in that world, but it's so amazing, and it's just so exciting that people are excited and are still keeping this going. I'm kind of from the Mac community, so I always looked in on the Amiga people with a little bit of envy, because it's like, you color and very fast machines, and people were absolutely pushing things to the extremes on that platform. A lot of my experience has mostly just been on the kind of the business side of things, where we had Amigas for video toaster and stuff, and it really wasn't a games machine. It's absolutely a games powerhouse,
Cool
but
game. Yeah.
my experience with it is all kind of on the business side of things.
It's funny. I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense because you're from the United States like me. So here in the States, big box Amigas and video toasters and Amiga as a multimedia device, that's kind of what people knew it as, even though it was a great games machine. But over in Europe, they were more into like the wedge machines, like the 500 and the 1200.
Yeah.
And games were their priority over there, especially since like video toaster was just for NTSC. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, they really embraced the games a lot. And Amiga in Europe is insane. Like they take it to a whole nother level. I went to Amiga Germany and they sold out tickets, like 1,000 tickets a day, sold out.
Oh yeah.
It was awesome. But the Amiga community is the best part. And that's why like we never stopped meeting in Westchester Amiga user group, because even, in year 2000, when Amiga things were really slow because most people had moved on to the PC or whatever Mac by then, whatever their platform of choice. And Amiga was still, it wasn't nostalgic yet. So it was just kind of like this, it was kind of like a dead time for Amiga. It wasn't dead by any stretch of the imagination. There were still like really cool demo parties, and the hardcore folks, they were still using it for sure. But there was many fewer people using it than there are today. But we kept getting together because we just became friends. So it was really about getting together with friends, hanging out, talking about something new happened in Amiga. We'd talk about that. We'd still get together and put our 500s together, play some Lotus 2 with a no modem cable every now and then. So we kept it going. But the Amiga was kind of an excuse to hang out with friends. Yeah, Josh is right. FujiNet runs on real hardware. Amiga Live does not. Exactly.
Oh.
It's very interesting you were talking about going to the convention, going to Germany, and all of that, and just how huge and exciting that is. I know that we have pockets of that in the US, and maybe one of those are people that went to the Long Island Retro like last weekend.
Long Island Retro was incredible. It was last weekend.
Okay.
There's definitely, you can tell the difference. I feel like in Europe, it's more of a party atmosphere. In the United States, it's more of like a museum atmosphere. So like if you go to VCF East, it's almost like, I call it a science fair. It's almost like a science fair. Whereas you go to Amiga Germany and they have a rave. It's where here, yes, like Long Island Retro is more along the lines of the science fair, and it takes place in this incredible museum. It's called the oh my god, it's like a mini Smithsonian. Sometimes my brain, it's been a long day. It's the Cradle of Aviation Museum in Long Island. It's a lot of history there. I think the first transcontinental flight took off from there. I may be mistaken, but one of the early historic flights took off from there. And it is like a mini Smithsonian Air, Sea, and Space Museum. It's incredible. So you can have they have like a Commodore PET and a Commodore Amiga next to like the moon lander. So not only do you get like this really cool retro show, but you're in this incredible museum. And then there's another event called MagFest, the Music and Games Festival, that I go to every year. And that one feels more European because it's more of a party, because it's heavy on the music as well. Like it's half music, half retro computers and arcades as well. So that feels like a big party. It's like a younger crowd, and they like to party. Lots of dancing and stuff going on there. Lots of lasers and neon. But Europe is really interesting. They have, like I said, they have a lot of demo parties there, which is like a bunch of folks get into a room, and the demo scene is kind of like a subculture of art. It's one of my favorite things in the world, because I love art. So when you have like amazing visual artists, amazing musicians, and then people who are incredible coders, like all coming together to make a production, it blows my mind. And they like to show off their productions and have a big party, DJs and lots of great music, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, you're very much into art, so I'm sure in a very Amiga story with the recreation of the 4-byte burger that I think maybe just happened in the last year, just kind of recreating that image from scratch. Did you follow that?
The 4-byte burger. No, I don't know the 4-byte burger.
Oh, okay.
No.
Well,
No.
and there's a whole video about it where it's just sort of like, because this was one of those pictures that was like to show off the graphics capabilities of the Amiga, and it was really just like there's pictures of the picture in books talking about kind of the art, and I'm butchering this, Amiga fans. I am so sorry. I am just fanboying this really cool thing that happened, which was that basically there's this picture, and it was always used to kind of demonstrate the capabilities of the Amiga graphics, and it exists now only in pictures inside books talking about the technology. And then someone actually went back through, and I think it's kind of a popular YouTuber, figured out all the stuff and like figured out, okay, this was drawn with the kind of in a portrait display, and so flip the monitor over and redrew all the stuff, kind of like how it would have been drawn originally.
Oh,
and
cool.
and so now this thing that for decades was only just something like on a picture was recreated in deluxe paint by this artist. And so I was like, wow, it's just amazing. Like that stuff, like it's like a 30-40 minute video just about like redrawing this picture.
Oh,
But it just
wow.
shows how hardcore kind of Amiga fandom and the Amiga community is, and just how dedicated they are to preserving history and all that.
Yeah, I remember King Tut was like the big deal.
Oh, yeah.
Every time you see a King Tut,
Yeah.
you knew it was about Amiga.
Yeah.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was just like, yeah.
Mhm.
That's
Well,
iconic. That came with deluxe paint. That image,
Yeah.
the King Tut image. Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, the cool thing about Amiga community too is because it was the first computer, for the creative types. A lot of people in the community are artists, and very creative. So they're passionate and creative. I think Amiga. That's why the Amiga demo scene is so strong, because the platform itself just attracted a ton of artists.
Absolutely. It's well, they had Warhol at the unveiling, so it was sort of kind of a big deal.
Definitely.
Yep. Now I have to look into that. I didn't see that. See, I try and keep my finger on the pulse of everything, but I miss sometimes.
This is something maybe about a year ago that this kind of happened, and now I see it everywhere. It's that image where it's just, now that it exists digitally, it's just sort of kind of a thing. But anyway, it's
cool.
I don't know, it's just something to check out. It's very much a amazing story about art on the Amiga, and just the links that people go to kind of recreate the old way of doing things just for authenticity. So
yeah, for sure. That's kind of one of the things I like too. I like to challenge myself with the old technology, like see how far I can push it. Now that I'm an adult, like what can I do? How can I take a photo and push it to the max with push the Amiga to the max? It's fun to work within limitations because you get more creative that way.
Sure. Yeah, I do think the constraints you don't have like a game that's, you go and buy something at the store and it's just a token to allow you to unlock the 200 gig download for whatever, but
updates, you got to update every time I want to play. Sometimes I'll sit down to play a modern game and I'll be like, oh, there's a new update. I'm like, it's cool they're updating it, but man, sometimes it takes like 30 minutes to update it. I'm like, cool, like my free time is over. So I spent it updating instead of playing. But the Amiga, turn it on and go, baby.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I just I think about the just all the stuff that's happened with because again, like if you get an Amiga, would you say get a US, like a NTSC Amiga, or get a PAL Amiga?
I would say PAL, but it really depends what you want to do with it. Obviously, if you want to do like video toaster or video work and you're in the States, then you want to get an NTSC one because a lot of the hardware is based on NTSC. But if if you're not going to do that, get a PAL, because like all the really cool stuff, all the new games and all the demos, they're all coming from Europe, so they're all in PAL. So, but the cool thing about the 1200 is you can switch between NTSC and PAL. A lot of the Amigas you can do that, but I have a PAL 1200 and a PAL 500, and those are the ones I use most. And my NTSC ones I don't use as much, even though you can switch between PAL and NTSC. It's just nice to have the native chipset.
Yeah, and I also just kind of think about like the whole 60 hertz, 50 hertz thing, that a lot of this other stuff, that while you can fake it and make it kind of work, is it clock for clock exactly the same? I mean, is it going to play? Is the experience the same? I don't know.
Also, if you're, it was more of an issue back then when you were connecting it to CRTs, because if you take like a PAL Amiga and plug it into an NTSC CRT, you're out of luck. But now with all the different scalers and with LCD monitors, it's less of an issue. Of course, there were CRTs like the 1084S that could do both, but most, like for example, like my first 4 Amiga monitors couldn't do that. They could be they were NTSC only. So it was definitely more of an issue back then. Where now with the modern technology, with the scalers and with the LCD screens, it's pretty much a non-issue.
And that's the advice that I've kind of heard from a lot of people, where it's like, get a PAL one because you're going to have the most compatibility and probably be able to pick it up a little cheaper than like an NTSC one, because I think people, especially new people maybe getting in on the hobby, kind of think that it's like, well, I'm in an NTSC region, I got to have the NTSC machine, and might pay more. I worked retail right about the tail end of the Amiga 500 being like a product that you could buy at retail. And we had a single, like, I just remember we got they were huge in the Chicago area. But in my little market in Illinois, we got like one demo unit, and we had one Amiga 500 that sat in the lockup, and we would occasionally sell that to someone who would come in who had a very strong European accent, and they would buy it because they were just like, I had to leave mine at home, and I want to have one here, and then I'll maybe take it back with me or whatever. But it was a great machine, and we parked it out there, and there was a ton of really fun things you could do, even just on a stock 500 back in those days. But probably so.
It's funny because Amiga is an American product made by Americans, but the Europeans are the ones who really embraced it.
Yeah.
Well,
and the stuff you should see.
They're the folks that kept the tape industry in business for years. So.
They're artists. They know it's good.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing too with you said the 500. I was going to say something, and I forgot what I was going to say, Ron.
I'm sorry.
I was talking about NTSC, PAL, Amiga. Yeah, I was going to say something about Europe being awesome. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, if it comes back to you, like, just interrupt me. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Yeah, I got a bunch of friends in Europe that they follow a lot of Amigas, and they sometimes make fun of the Apple scene, because they say, well, we release a lot of games. Why don't you guys release more games and do more things like us, and those things? And I was like, okay.
Yeah, I'm still playing through the back catalog. Come on.
Yep, that's right. Yeah.
I mean, Apple, it must be pretty cool to be into Apple, because I mean, it's a lot different, because Apple is obviously not just still around, but like king of the hill. So that's a much different experience than Amiga. A lot of people spend time thinking about, like what could have been when it comes to Amiga, but with Apple, you've got the answer. What could have been is what it is right now, Yeah. But yeah, so you guys have a great history too. I had an Apple IIe. I love my Apple IIe. That was a lot of fun. And Jordan Mechner, who created Karateka, he actually was he lived like a mile from me. I didn't even know it.
Oh, wow.
I didn't even know until now. I'm like, Jordan, you went to my rival high school, and he's like, oh, you guys stink. I'm like, you guys stink. But it was pretty wild. Yeah. So it's funny. There you go. That's one of my all-time favorite games right there. Oh, yeah. And the 2 buttons, Load Runner on the Apple IIe is still my favorite Load Runner, because the 2 buttons.
Yeah. It makes it a lot easier instead of pressing up.
Yeah.
That's kind of tough.
Yeah.
I beat Karateka for the first time this year. I beat it for the first time at K-Fest. I'd never beaten it before.
It's funny because one of my first online experiences, I loved going online. I went online I had a 300 baud acoustic coupler modem for my Atari 800. I had a 1200 baud Hayes modem for my Apple II, and the 1200 baud like Commodore Amiga modem for my 500. And I was playing Karateka, and at the end of the game, I would go up and the princess would kill me. I was like, this doesn't seem right. I don't think I'm beating the game. Yeah, I was like, I don't think I'm beating the game. So I went on to CompuServe, and I left a message, and I was like, hey, I got this game, Karateka, and at the end, the princess kills me. Is there any way to actually get the princess at the end of the game? And someone responded. They're like, no, you got to run into her arms. And I tried it. after that, and it worked. And I was like, no way, it's amazing. And but it was like a big deal at the time, because then I asked the person, like, who are you? And he was like a film producer in Los Angeles. And I was like, that's crazy. Like, I just posted this thing on CompuServe, and some guy in Los Angeles responds to me with the answer, and it was magical. It was, and now we take it for granted, but back then, like, it was magical.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
So what, if somebody was wanting to get started in the Amiga community and wanting to get started with a machine, real hardware, some kind of emulation solution, everything's on the table. What would be the kind of the easiest way for people to get started, and then what would you say is maybe like the best way to get started?
It's really tough. I mean, it kind of depends on, you know, like what you want to do ultimately. It's kind of hard for me to go into the mindset of just having no Amiga experience. But like, some people like really care about the real hardware. Other people are kind of like more into the software end of it.
Sure.
The real hardware is pretty expensive. So I would start with like an A500 Mini, and then you could get like the Amiga game selector. This guy, Paul Vince, again, the Amiga community is incredible. He basically put together like every single Amiga game on a USB stick. So you can get an A500 Mini for around Christmas time. They were going for like $90 on Amazon. Like, that's hard to beat. That's like $90. That's really hard to beat. So you get yourself an A500 Mini with the Amiga game selector, and you basically have like every Amiga game, classic Amiga game. The new ones aren't on there because they're, you know, support the developers. You should buy those. Yeah, but all the classic abandonware games are all on the USB stick, and you can really get yourself familiar, you know, with the whole catalog that way. But other people are like, no, I really want the real hardware. That's what gets me super psyched. And I think an Amiga 500 is a great place to start, because it was the most popular one. It's the one you can get at the most reasonable price, because there's the most of them were made. And most of the classic games, I don't know if it's most or a lot of the classic games, they all run on the 500. Like when like on the more advanced Amigas, like the 1200 and the 4000, there were some really good AGA games, and some back then, and some really good ones coming out today. But like, if you have a 500, you can play like most of the classics. Yeah. So the 500 is a great place to start with real hardware. But yeah, like, there's so many great options today. Like I said, the 500 Mini is really cool. It's a lot of fun. Even the 600 GS is interesting. A Raspberry Pi, like, to me, like, when it comes to like emulation, on the PC, you have WinUAE, and Amiga Forever is really good on the PC as well. That makes it easy for you. It's basically WinUAE, which is the ultimate Amiga emulator, but it comes with all the legal ROMs that you need, just like the A500 Mini does. And it's just kind of packaged in a more digestible way, because WinUAE is so powerful, it can be really overwhelming for a new person to it. Like, a new person doesn't know what DF0 is. Like, how would they even know that? But if you get Amiga Forever, that helps you through it. You know, same thing with the A500 Mini. But, you know, like, when push came to shove, and when I travel and I still want to do the Sunday Fun Day streams, like, sometimes I go away to work on a show for like 4 months. I bring my Raspberry Pi with me, because it's kind of the ultimate. It's really powerful. It gives you the most options. So, you know, you can't go wrong with the Raspberry Pi either. There's something called Pi Amiga on it, which is fantastic. It has like basically the same collection of stuff that A600, the A500 Mini has, that Amiga Game Selector. It actually comes with the Amiga Game Selector as well. So the Raspberry Pi, you just have to do a few more tricks. It's a little bit trickier to get it initially started up, but it's pretty simple. If you know how to, like, you know, burn an ISO file, you're fine. But yeah, the Pi is also a really good way to go as well. If there was only one, if I could only have one device that's not a real Amiga, I would go with the Pi at this point. But yeah, but someone brand new, just check out another good way to do it. If you want to get familiar with some Amiga games, a great way to do it is with, I told you before about Amiga Live. You can just go to amigalive.com if you got Linux, Mac, or Windows, and there's like hundreds of games on Amiga Live. You don't have to play them online multiplayer. You can play it offline solo, and that's a really good way to do it too. And you don't need it to buy anything. It's just all set up and ready for you to go. So that's a really cool way to explore some Amiga games as well.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's very nice that that type of stuff exists. In the Mac community, there's a thing, it's called Infinite Mac, where you can go out to the website and basically it's just, there's a machine. And then you can kind of play around with the operating system and stuff. And it just uses kind of Basilisk 2 and other emulators and stuff that are available elsewhere, but just kind of puts it in a nice web thing. So it's really good to hear that that exists for the Amiga community to be able to kind of emulate and play some of that stuff, just to keep it alive, make it as easy as possible for people to access. So
yeah, I again, we have the Raspberry Pi with Pi-Amiga, which I love, and AmiKit, which I'll be interviewing that guy next week, Jan. And then we have the Vampire V4 standalone, which is really interesting too. That's an FPGA, and it's kind of like, what if Amiga like 68K hardware continued on past 060? Vampire is super cool. We've got the Mister. The Mister is fantastic. The Mister to me really almost feels like a real Amiga. I think that almost feels like the closest to a real Amiga, but it's limited to like 68030s. I call it an 030 essentially, which is like fine for like 90% of the stuff. But I love my 060 demo. So
oh yeah, sure.
But the Mister is awesome. I love the Mister for other reasons too. Like I love the arcade ROMs on the Mister. They're awesome. So I love the Mister. So yeah, so we got like Vampire V4 is FPGA. We got Mister's FPGA. We got Raspberry Pi, which is software emulation. We got the 600GS, which is software emulation. A500 Mini, again, ARM software emulation. So there's a lot of options.
I guess a part of it is being able to, and I like, this is something that would never happen on the Mac side, even though that Apple, like, you know, people have decompiled the ROMs on like the Mac Plus and things like that, and have a really good, I'm basically reverse engineered that into a not, copyright infringing version of that ROM. But my understanding is that if you want to do some of these fun things and you maybe want to do it the right way, that you should at least purchase the ROMs for the machine. And there's kind of a way to do it that's kind of maybe not like just, you're not just buying the ROMs, but you're buying a product that includes that or something. Is that still a thing kind of in the Amiga community?
Yeah. Well, the ROMs, the classic ROMs, like the ROMs are called Kickstart on the Amiga. Yeah. So if you're like Kickstart 1.2, 1.3, that's like Amiga 1000, Amiga 500. Then you have like Kickstart 2 and Kickstart 3. That's for Amiga 1200, 4000. They're owned by a company called Clianto. So technically they are still like copywritten ROMs, but they're super easy to get. You can get them legally on the Google Play Store for like $2. Or, I mean, technically when you buy an A500 Mini, Clianto supports the A500 Mini, so you're getting the ROMs. So like when if you put AGS on it, you're not doing anything wrong because you bought the ROMs because you bought the device. Yeah. When you get Amiga Forever,
needs to legally use that.
Yeah. And when you get Amiga Forever, which is the program for Windows, that comes with the ROMs on it. So there's plenty of ways to get those ROMs. And then, like I said, the future of Amiga, like AROS and this A600GS, it uses not the ROMs. It uses these AROS ROMs, which are trying to break free of the classic Amiga ROMs and move it forward towards hitting the ARM chip directly. And that is pretty cool. I haven't had as much success with, not everything works with it, but it starts hitting the custom chips, not everything works. So you're going to want the original ROMs, but they're easy to get, super easy to get. And like $2 on Google Play, or just get your 500 Mini or your Amiga Forever. It's a piece of cake.
Yeah. So you've got really great emulation options. You got really great, like with Mister and stuff, that's almost simulation options. For buying like real hardware, PAL is good. Maybe go for a PAL machine. I know that there are some differences in the video hardware, like the difference, like the AGA. Yep. And for some of the games require some of the advanced graphics chipsets and things like that.
Yep.
If you had to buy or if you were interested in buying like real hardware, like what machine would you kind of steer people towards?
Yeah, it's a great question. For me, the 1200 does everything. I like the 1200 the most because that's got, so when you have Amiga, there's almost like 2 generations of it. There's the original generation, the original chipset, OCS, /ECS. We'll just keep those together for now. And then the next generation Amiga was AGA, Advanced Graphics Architecture. So that's the Amiga 1200 and the Amiga 4000. The Amiga always had like a big box version of it, which you could had expansion slots in it, and then like the wedge version. So the big box version was the Amiga 2000, and the wedge version was the 500. Then you had the 4000 and the 1200. So so you kind of have to choose. Like, do you want like the old school one, like a 500 or a 1200? I think definitely 1200 is the way to go because you can run essentially everything, especially if you have an accelerator.
Yeah.
The OCS and the AJ, but the flip side is a lot of the classic games, like I said before, are OCS games. So there's nothing wrong with getting an Amiga 500 at all.
Yeah.
There's a lot of folks I know because the 1200s are expensive.
Yeah.
So a lot of folks I know, they get like a 500, an inexpensive 500. Even the 500s are expensive, but they get like an inexpensive 500. And then if they want to do AGA, they emulate for AGA. But if you're into the real hardware and you only want one Amiga, then I would start with the 1200. But you're gonna want more than one Amiga. So
I was gonna say Javier just got his.
Nice. That's a 600. Yeah,
that's a 600 because I don't like the 500. It's too big for me.
It is. The 500 is very big. It's very true. It's very.
So this
big.
is like a 500 small, and that's what I like.
Yeah, what's great about that? It's got the PC MCIA slot in it, so it's easy to transfer files between your PC and that machine. And it's got the IDE port in it, so you can put a compact flash card in there for your hard drive. The 600 is awesome. I love the 600.
I put a GoTech in there.
Perfect. Yeah.
With the little screen.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm thinking about replacing the power supply because I don't like that big brick that it comes with.
You can get something called a Power Shark. It's really cool. Power Shark is actually a USB-C adapter that you can power your Wedge Amiga with. Yeah, it's awesome. I got one over here if you want to see it.
Let's see it.
I can get it. Hold on.
Sure.
Yeah.
How much would you expect to pay if you wanted to get into an Amiga 1200?
1200. That's a really good question. You're probably going to pay $500 or more, easily, 5 to 7.
Yeah.
This is the Power Shark here. It's got the. I don't have autofocus on the camera, but yeah, it's got like the Amiga connector there.
I should get one of those. Yeah, that's CC.
Yeah. They're probably. I bet they're sold out at this moment, but they're going to do another batch. It's called because they did this batch and then they're getting feedback about it, like what people like about it, what people don't like about it, and they're going to do another run. So keep your eye out for it. The Power Shark, like get on their mailing list so you can get in on the next batch. Yeah, it's really cool.
They look pretty similar to other ones that I know about.
Yeah, they're cool. Yeah, I would recommend. I'm a big fan of a place called Retro Passion. They're in the UK. I can see how much they're selling 1200s for right now. If we go to Retro Passion. Passion.co.uk, and what they do, something that's really important when it comes to like Amiga 1200s, is they use cheap capacitors when they were made. So the capacitors are leaking in the 1200s. Yeah. So Retro Passion will change the capacitors for you, completely, redo the whole motherboard. Yeah, it's awesome. So here's so refurbished Commodore Amiga 500 units are 289 pounds. That's like a click over $300 US, and refurbished Commodore Amiga 1200s are 500 pounds. Yeah, so 500 pounds. So that's probably like, I don't know, $550, $400, something like that. But those are completely recapped and refurbished, almost like new. Yeah. So that's what I would recommend. There's other great Amiga retailers too, but Retro Passion does a great job, really great job, and they have them like in stock. And the Steve is like a big Amiga fan.
Nice.
Is an accelerator an important thing that you should think about adding to an Amiga?
Sorry, I didn't hear the first part.
Is an accelerator an important thing you should think about adding to an Amiga?
Yeah, I think so. I feel like for an Amiga 1200, an 030 is kind of the sweet spot. Mm-hmm. You can run most things with a 68030. The Amiga 1200 comes with an 020 stock inside of it. But most people had an 030 back in the day, and if you were lucky, you would upgrade to like an 040 or an 060. The Amiga 4000 came with an 040 in it. So, but the ultimate is to have an 060 in it. So I think my Terrible Fire card was like $300 plus the cost of the 060, which isn't too bad. Or maybe it was a little bit less than it. Maybe it was less than 300. It was plus the 060. I don't quite remember. But yeah, I would recommend getting an accelerator. It just makes everything run snappier. And you don't have to worry. But if you have an 030 in there, like you can pretty much run everything except the most demanding demos. I mean, if you're going to do stuff like Lightwave 3D, then you'll definitely want an accelerator. But for the most part, an 030 is a sweet spot. For the 500, I think it's not as important because for the 500, you're probably going to like run mostly classic games, and all those games are really designed to run on the original 68,000 chip with 1 megabyte of RAM. So that's how I have my 500 set up. It's a sweet spot for it. But you can accelerate a 500 too. you can get like an ACA 500 plus, and you can put an 030 in there, and you can definitely accelerate.
What
the
about
500.
mine?
Yeah,
The 600. Same?
yeah. Oh, you have an 030 in there?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
It's don't play yet.
I never use it, so
Oh,
I'm gonna
You're
start
sick-
using it after this.
Isn't the
Yeah.
default isn't it like 16 megahertz, 68,000?
7 megahertz, 7
Oh,
point.
7.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm
yeah,
sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Given a little bit too much credit, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so but again, it depends what you kind of what you want to do. I like a 1 megabyte Amiga 500 is a sweet spot, and an 030 1200 is also a sweet spot. Those are, to me, those are the two sweet spots.
Yeah.
And then, hey, if you can kick it up to an 060 and your 1200, that's awesome. But I mean, I never had that back then. That's only something I got recently.
Mhm.
Even until I think I got my Terrible Fire card like 3 or 4 years ago. That was the first time I ever had an 060. The fastest thing I had was an 040 in my 4000. But the 030, 1200 with an 030 or a 500 with that's just sweet spots.
I followed a lot of that Amiga accelerator because I mean, for a long time, people were very much like all the trapdoor upgrades and things like that, where it was like, adding more memory or adding like a processor or real-time clock and things like that. That people were chasing all of those old accelerators and going broke doing it. It seemed like some of those accelerators were just insane amounts of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really great that there are now modern solutions that kind of, fill that gap
With
for
sensitive
people.
prices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where
You can
got
also
something that isn't like the price of a new car.
Yeah. Like the cool thing about the Terrible Fire is that you're still like using a real 060 chip, and you're still using like the real actual hardware. But another thing that's really neat is you can get like something called a Pi Storm, and that essentially lets you put a Raspberry Pi into that trapdoor slot, which is also really cool. I think it's a very affordable way to do it. The Pi Storm is cheap. It's like $100 and something plus the cost of a Raspberry Pi. So it's not bad at all. And then the Vampire team, they make accelerators that go in there. So there's another accelerator called the Warp. They have Warp 060s as well. So it's really cool that people are making new accelerators. Yeah, you love your Terrible Fire 1260. I love mine too. It's just simple and the price is right. Yeah, the Pi Storm rocks. The Pi Storm is really cool. I don't have a Pi Storm myself. I need to get one though. I've seen them. They're really cool. But I just kind of keep my Pi. I keep my Pi in a separate box, and I keep my same thing with my Vampire. I keep it separate. I try and keep my Amiga somewhat original. But hey, putting a Pi Storm inside of an Amiga is a really great way to go too.
Oh, yeah. So, Bill, if people want to find out more information about what you're doing specifically in the Amiga community, is the best place to go your Twitch channel? Just your streams, or
that you can just go to amigabill.tv, and it's right now it's not a website. I want to make a website, but it's my link tree. So I post stuff. Every Sunday I do the Twitch stream. Then I post stuff on the Twitter X. I post stuff on Facebook. On Facebook, I've got a Facebook page. I still use the Guru Meditation Facebook page, and then my own personal Amiga Bill page. It's all there, like on the amigabill.tv. Very simple to go there, and you got all my links. And and on YouTube as well, youtube.com/AmigaBill, where I post clips from my streams, bite-sized chunks. Amiga News, I do the Amiga News every week because it's always like so much cool stuff happening in the Amiga community every week. I post just the news section, which is usually like 20 to 30 minutes. So that will keep you up to date on everything in the Amiga community on the YouTube channel. And and Twitch. I try. Those are the places I focus on. Some people are like, you should join this one. I'm like, cool. Like, I'm out of time. I got.
Yep. We do have a question from Cubicle Nate. He said, what accelerator do you think is a good one to go with? Vampire or Pi Storm? That Pi Storm looks good, but the Vampire also looks really good.
Yeah, it's tough. I don't actually, the Vampire's got something called Ice Drake, and I haven't actually used those, so I can't speak from experience. Everyone really likes the Pi Storm a lot. I think it also depends if you're going to put it into a real Amiga or not. Like I said, I kind of like to keep mine separate. I think if I was going to go with an accelerator in a real Amiga, that's not an authentic like 060, I probably would try the Pi Storm first because it's really inexpensive, and some of the stuff I've seen people do with it, like with the Coffin OS and stuff, it looks the Caffeine OS. It looks really cool. So I'd probably try out the PyStorm first. It's pretty cheap and reasonable. But the Vampire is cool. The Vampire is different. Like it's, you know how there's an Amiga community. There's also like a Vampire community. When you get a Vampire,
I heard about that. Blade was doing his best to take those guys out.
I mean, there's always, I don't. It's when you have
making
people
Marvel
that
Comics
like,
joke. Sorry.
Oh, got it. Yeah. No, but I was saying whenever you have, this is true though. This is true. Whenever you have a community of people who are like really passionate about something, some folks, you know, see things one way, some people see things another way, and they get these little battles going. But I like all of it. I'm like, I want it all. I'm an Amiga fan. Like, give me all the options.
Yes.
But there is a community of people like dedicated Vampire users who are awesome. And the cool thing about the Vampire, like I said, it's like, what if the Amiga 68000 line of processors jumped? Like, what if there was an 080? So the Vampire is like, what if? And their FPGA is like an 080. And they also have Super AGA, SAGA. Like, what if AGA evolved? You know, like we talked about, they have the original Amiga chipset. Then they have the more advanced graphics, the AGA chipset, and then now they have like Super AGA on the Vampire. So it's kind of it's pretty neat. And they also have something called the Apollo OS, which is also based on Aros, and they're trying to do cool stuff. There's people like my friend Proton from Finished Gold. He's making demo. He's a hardcore like old school demo scener. So now he just got a Vampire V4, and he's like, what can I do with this Vampire, both musically and graphically? So it's cool. It's exciting. It's just kind of depends on are you interested in like having this hobby thing where like what can this new device do, what Amiga could have been, or are you just kind of more interested in playing the classic stuff, you know, or all of it.
Absolutely. But you struck on something that's kind of important, which is it's really easy to get in your silo and be like, no, sorry, it's like our way is the right way and there is no other right way. But you have to keep in mind, if you want the hobby to continue, you've got to make it open for people, especially people that they don't have the money to get into that. There's got to be some kind of, like, even if it's a reduced experience, some experience that lets people have a taste of that, and then later when they can join everybody else, like with whatever the new hotness is. So I'm really glad that there are lots of options, and that you speak from that idea of, we've got to be inclusive. We got to get, to a point where emulation is not a bad thing. It's, if it lets people enjoy our community on a level they're comfortable with, then let them participate. So that's really good that hopefully the drama is kind of on the edges of your community than kind of something that's in everybody's face every day.
Oh, for sure. There's definitely drama, but in the, like, 99% of the people are just awesome and like very welcoming and super, super nice, and it's pretty cool. And like I said, I like all of it. Like, I want the Vampire, bring it on. Give me the A600 GS, A500 Mini, let's go. The new Maxi that's supposedly coming out, I'm getting one. oh, real Amigas? Okay, look, I got a bunch back there. I want it all. Like, I just love all of it. So it's all, each one has got like its own strength. There's nothing like the real thing, but at the same time, sometimes the real thing isn't so convenient, and sometimes it's really expensive. So
sure.
There's some good. I can't wait to see the new demos coming out for the Vampire. I can't wait. I can't wait.
That's awesome. Bill, let's take one final question from chat, and that is One Bit Fever Dream. He says, what is the most compelling game developer for Amiga, and why is it somewhere else? I'm going to say it's got something to do with Sauron. The Dark Lord probably has some kind of influence on this, but what do you think?
The Amiga, it's from a specific game developer. I mean, it's tricky to say that because it's such like a niche market. There are, if you have some of the top game devs, like they've made like 2 or 3 new games because it takes years. It takes years to make the game. I mean, I'm a big fan of Spielschreiber. That's Richard Lowenstein and his team. They had made Reshooter, a game called Reshooter, because I like shoot 'em ups. They made a game called Reshoot Proxima 3. I got them all back there. Do you want me to get some of the games? I can show you the boxes.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything you want to share with us?
Yeah.
There's
we want to see.
Sorry, it's out in the warehouse. I'll be back in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we got Hoffman. See, the problem is the only problem is when I start like naming things, I always leave something out, which is always makes me sad. But here, I got a couple here for you. These are just a couple I just pulled off the shelf. This is okay. I'll put these here. We got Oh, I could also go mobile. My iPhone. This is Spielschreiber. This is Richard Lowenstein. He's from Germany. We got Reshooter and Reshoot Proxima 3.
Nice.
Reshooter is a side-scrolling shooter, like an homage to like the Project X and that kind and the side-scrolling shooters. Reshoot Proxima 3 is a vertical shoot 'em up. These games are fantastic. Reshoot Proxima 3 it's as good, I guess, as good as any arcade game. You put this in an arcade box and you wouldn't even know that's like the home computer in there. Another one, you know, who I think is amazing in the Amiga community is this guy, Hoffman. Hoffman is an Amiga demo scener. And game developer and musician. He's the guy's talent level is just like off the freaking charts. So Seekanoid is actually a PC game that's like an homage to like the 8-bit games. Yeah. And Hoffman saw it on Steam and he's like, I can make that game on a 1 megabyte Amiga. Like, you don't need a PC to make that game. So he got their permission and he did it. He ported the PC homage to the classic games to an actual classic machine. So Hoffman rules. This is it's a great dual stick joystick game. Speaking of dual stick, I love dual stick joystick games. We got Rogue Declan, Nivrig Games. He's a great game developer as well. Rogue Declan is super fun. Takes place in dungeons, and like I said, takes advantage of the dual stick controller. And he's really tapped into a lot of the new Amiga devices like the A500 Mini, A700 GS. He also made another game called Turbo Tomato, which is like great for kids. So Nivrig Games, Spielschreiber, Hoffman. This is Invia. This is from Michael Borman. His name is Tiger Skunk. He's fantastic. Invia, this is a 1 megabyte Amiga 500 game, a side-scrolling shooter. Another fantastic game. You also want to check out, oh man, the games aren't available yet. I'm so excited. There's guys called Bitbeam Cannon. They're making a game called Metro Siege, which is like a street brawler. Oh my God. It's one of those games where it just takes the Amiga 500 and makes it do things that you've never imagined before. And there's another game coming out called Grind. Yeah, there was a lot of beef like, oh, Doom can't run on an Amiga. Well, these guys are making a game called Grind, which is basically like Doom / Wolfenstein 3D. It looks incredible. That's John Chuck Harris and Alpine 9000. He's doing the engine for that, as well as Metro Siege. That's super exciting too. So like we got Grind, Metro Siege from Bitbeam Cannon, Alpine 9000, John Chuck Harris, Hoffman, Tiger Skunk, Spielschreiber, Nivrig. So many good ones. Oh man, there's so many good ones. It's hard to pick one.
I'd say that this is like a renaissance of Amiga stuff, but you can't. It never went away. It never went away. It's just always been building. Yeah,
Pixel Glass. That's what I was thinking about. Yeah, no, it's always been building. It is like it's interesting because, like I said before, like the dark ages of Amiga, like 1998, 99, 2000. Westchester Amiga User Group was still meeting, but there was still like a group of hardcore people that were into Amiga. But it's also like the golden age for collecting. Like back then, you can get an Amiga 1200 for like $20, $40. So it was like the dark ages for Amiga, but the golden age for collecting. Yeah. But all these folks, you know, like Hoffman, I've known about Hoffman for forever. I don't know, like when since like the late 90s, early 2000s. I always knew of him through the demo scene, but I never actually got to talk to him. And now we're streaming friends, you know, and I hang out with him when we go to Amiga Germany, and he goes to all the UK events as well. And he's super, super rad. I mean, it's incredible. Like the music he makes, the games, incredible. Demos, crazy talent in the Amiga community. Yeah. Pixel Glass rocks too. Oh man, there's so many. Yeah.
So many great people making so many great things.
Yeah, it's really exciting times. Yeah. Reshoot Proxima 3 is mind blowing, Sigger. It's mind blowing. It is. It's unbelievable. I love the physical boxes too. Yeah. It's great because
that's part of the nostalgia. Yeah,
they're really well done. It's part of nostalgia, and like I think it was Invia. It comes with a mission patch. Like it comes with crazy stuff here. Yeah, it comes with a floppy disk too. It comes on a floppy disk. Yeah, it's all the fun stuff, right? It's got.
It makes you want to buy them. Yeah.
It's got the game manual, which is awesome. The CD, like the soundtrack to these games, like Hoffman soundtrack to Seekanoid, Martin Amon soundtrack to Reshoot Proxima 3. Dude, I mean, it's so cool. It's so cool. And then it comes on CD, or it comes on, you can put in your micro SD card as well. Put it in your favorite emulator.
That's great.
Yeah, the box editions of these games are really, really well done. All of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Bill, thank you so much for taking us down and kind of getting us a kickstart on how to get maybe a little bit more involved in maybe Amiga collecting and how to get a path for actually getting to that experience either through emulation or real machines and all that. So, yeah, Joe, yeah.
I would,
thank you, Joe.
I would, I would, if also offline, I would go on Facebook. There's a Facebook group, Commodore Amiga Facebook group. Another one called Amiga Forever. If you're on Facebook, those are good groups to be in.
Yeah.
There's something called the English Amiga Board. There's another one called lemonamiga.com. That was the ultimate database. But that's where a lot of the hardcore Amiga fans hang out in those forums. Amiga.org, Lemon Amiga, English Amiga Board, the Facebook groups. Reddit, there's a good Amiga community on Reddit. That's the subreddit /Amiga is really good as well. Intricate Amiga Love, he runs that. So there's lots of good places, lots of good Amiga resources out there.
Yeah, very cool. Bill, will you hang around? We'll do the rest of our segments and then we'll wrap up here in just a couple of minutes. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'm chilling. I'm good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, we will move to our second segment. I know that we're kind of running long in the interview, but let's be honest. This was great. This was a great talk with Bill.
Thanks.
So things ran a tiny bit long. Does it ever really run long? I'm not on any kind of schedule. I hope you're not either. But I know Bill's had a long day, so I don't want to hold him super long this evening. So I'm sure that there's a point that he'd like to spend some time with his family, or maybe get some rest. Who knows? So,
I love it.
But we'll do our next segment, which is normally it's sort of like a gets. Where folks can kind of talk about new things that they've maybe acquired in the last week or so. And we'll start with Javier.
Oh boy, no, I haven't acquired anything. I just acquired headaches because I've been working a lot on my new products. Thankfully, the new things that I'm working on, they've been very well accepted. I appreciate it. Thank you very much, everybody.
Yeah.
So the little adapters, just for AmigaBill to know, this is an adapter for an Apple IIc, the same thing, USB-C, and it also has a voltage meter on the top, so it shows you how much voltage you have. So since I announced this, it's been sold like crazy, so like pancakes, and I actually get off. I was out of parts, so I have to wait to get more parts, and I just got it like 2 days ago. So I've been chugging them along, and I'm gonna be send them out next week. So yeah, it's very good. Same thing with the mouse. The mouse, the parts that I had a problem with some parts. I just got them fixed, and this actually is the USB version that I just released today, and I already sold the ones that I had on stock. So thank you very, very much. It's been very well accepted, and actually, AmigaBill, just for you to know, I'm working on a little project.
Oh, I love it.
I
got a similar one. I got a similar one right here.
All right. Well, yeah, but yours works. What I'm showing here is a 3D printed of a basic first version, but it's going to be a cabled optical mouse for the Amiga.
Nice. Very cool.
And I'm making it 3D printed, of course. So I'm creating from scratch, and I already tested it with the Amiga, and it works. So I'm just gonna polish a little bit the case and start showing it. So I may have one at BCF Midwest to test.
Excellent. Excellent. You have to come. You have to be a guest on my stream and show it off.
That's awesome. Yes, I want to do that. Yeah. So again, I've been working on these things and the other products that I've been working. BCF West, I'm going to have a bunch of things, and I'll show you later more cool stuff that I've been working on, and I'll have. So
I love it.
That's the new stuff.
Awesome. I love it. That's awesome.
Thanks,
Sean. Any fun new things?
Well, I've been converting some of my machines to Pico ATX power supplies, and I found this company, or not a company, but a guy named Deco Newcomb in the UK who makes adapters for the Apple II, 2 Plus, 2E, 2GS. He's got, and they're fused. Got fuses built into them. And you just hook up your Pico adapter to these. Sorry, I got to get my camera to hook up your Pico adapter.
Mhm.
And then the other cool thing about these is they have auxiliary fan outputs. And of course, on your Pico adapter, you have a SATA power connector too. So you have options for powering additional things inside the computer. But I thought I'd give these a try. I mean, they got sorry, dyslexic on the camera here. But they got quality switches.
Yeah.
If you want to dump the link, I put it in the chat.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, give me 1 second.
But they're pretty cool.
Wow.
That's amazing.
I want them all, and I want them now.
Anyway, that's one of my projects for tomorrow. I've got tomorrow off, and I'm gonna see how well they work. I'm gonna be upgrading one ROM 3 2GS and a 2GS that I've installed in a Platinum 2E case.
Very cool.
That's gonna be awesome.
Nice.
And it comes with either assembled or as a kit.
Mhm.
They come with all the cables and all the other goodies that you need. Like here's the power buttons that I'm really pleased by the build quality. They seem to be really well.
Mhm.
And if they work as expected, I'll probably buy more. But they also have adapters for old IBM like 5150, 5155s. You can get out the old 135 watt power supplies, and they make also adapters for Mac SE30 and older.
Oh,
So cool stuff. I'd mind check it out.
Very cool.
Then I also just got these.
oh,
I finally joined the FujiNet revolution.
Oh, yeah.
oh yeah, FujiNet.
I'm gonna check that out.
Very cool.
I got to play with some FujiNet as well. Like I said, I saw Thomas do it at VCF East. I got to get FujiNet cooking, especially on my Atari 8-bit stuff. I think you may have originally done it on Atari 8-bit, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Atari is the best for FujiNet.
Yeah.
They do everything.
I was going to say, a lot of love that went into that one. So.
And you mentioned the Apple IIc. Like thinking back in time, like I think the Apple IIc is a really cool design. Back then, my neighbors had the IIc, and they always kind of looked a little envious of my 2E. But now I think the IIc is just a cool design. And same thing with like the Atari 400. I was so happy to have the 800 because that keyboard on the 400 is just brutal to work on. But the 400 is such a cool looking computer. Like I ended up picking one up recently just because it just looks so cool. And there's some great designs like on that 400 and the Apple IIc. I love some of those old school designs. Yeah, there you go.
Best in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Really great. And we were very fortunate. We got to Kansas Fest because Sean is on the committee for Kansas Fest and helps with like guests and all the logistics of putting that event on. And we just had because it was just the anniversary of the 40th anniversary of the 2C, and so we had people that were on that team. They're kind of talking to us about like the design and all that cool stuff. So
that's really cool. Is the Apple community, like the Apple engineers, are they involved in your community at all? Because like the former Commodore engineers are extremely involved, in our Amiga community. Do you guys have that with the Apple?
When we reach out,
not much.
Mm-hmm.
When you reach out.
There's some of them that participate in the on the Facebook page. They're kind of stealthily in there. They don't announce like, hey, I'm an Apple II guy or an Apple engineer.
Oh, yeah.
They might drop it like, well, back when I worked at Apple. And then you go, oh, okay.
And all of a sudden we realize, yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, because I think that also it's maybe because Apple's still around, but we have a lot of the engineers who are still like really involved in the community, like Dave Haney and RJ Michael and lots of engineers. Gail Wellington and Jeff Porter, they're all hanging out in the Facebook groups. It's really cool.
Very cool.
It's
sorry.
great to hear from the people that were there doing the things that we enjoy so much.
Oh, you know what I forgot to tell you about is there's also not just like hardware and software. You know, when we think of Amiga, we think of hardware and software, but there's also like, sorry, I don't mean to like hijack it, but there's also like
this is your segment now. So
Go ahead.
now you tell us about the amazing stuff. I
We
saw
have,
your
like-
picture on social media with the new magazine.
Yeah, it's incredible. Like there's Amiga magazines that are being published both physically and digitally. There's Amiga Future, Amiga Addict, Zap. Zap's got a Commodore 64 one as well. And they, like, the quality of these magazines is insane. Like this Amiga Addict came with a 3.5-inch floppy disk with Bridge Strike, which is an awesome game on it. It's like it's a vertical scrolling shoot 'em up like River Raid. But I mean, the quality of these magazines is just absolutely insane. I mean, these magazines are as good as the commercial magazines back in the day. It's unbelievable. So that's a whole nother part of the community. And there's people making digital magazines as well. Like, so like you can actually read the magazine. There's a magazine called What IFF, and you actually read it on a real Amiga. It's unbelievable. And the quality is like out of this world. Like
That's awesome.
It's not just as like a hobby project, but it feels like a commercial stuff. Like these magazines are just incredible.
It's pretty cool. Do you have anything else? Any other recent acquisitions you wanted to share?
Me personally?
Yeah. Yeah, you're in the spotlight.
Oh,
You're
wow. What did I? I mean, there's so many. There's so many. I showed you the Power Shark. Well, hold on. I can do this. I can show you. This is pretty cool. This is gonna be coming out soon. Let me just flip the sucker around. Let's see. I'm gonna go wireless here. We got that. Okay. If I go, can I do this? Let's see. I'm gonna try it. Hold on. I'm going to my settings. This is my first time using this software. If I go to my settings, I think I can switch cameras. Settings, I can go to this. Let's see. There we go, right? Yeah, so there's you guys can see my phone now?
Yes. We see your Knight Rider case.
Yeah, so this is really cool. That's the new Amiga 1200 case from a1200.net, and then inside there's a board called the Solus board. It plugs into the clock port of the 1200, and that's what those LED lights are, and you can put a little connection onto your RF out on this thing, and it syncs the LEDs to the music. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It's also got temperature control. So yeah, I love this. You're talking about new power supplies. This is a new power supply for the 1200, 500. It's really good. I got from Centurion Tech.
I wonder who that belongs to.
Yeah, right. I have to label it.
Perhaps.
Yeah, I take them to all the shows, and I have to put my name on it. I go a bit nuts with the P-Touch. Yeah, there's the 600 GS, and I just got a Raspberry Pi 5, so I'm really excited about the Pi 5. It emulates Amiga really well with the Pi Amiga and with Ami kits. And the cool thing about the Pi 5 is it's got something called like Rabbit Hole, so you can it's running Linux underneath, and you can run Linux in an Amiga environment, which is super cool. So this is actually my Raspberry Pi here. It looks like an Amiga 1200. It's actually a Raspberry Pi I put inside of it, so you can see.
Nice.
You can see like the Pi in there.
Cool.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, that's not an original keyboard. That's
right. This is a Kipper 2K keyboard that you can put it into a real Amiga, or you can have it connected with USB. So this is the USB version. So I've got the USB going into the Raspberry Pi. Yeah, but that's super cool. So yeah, I've gotten. I mean, every week there's something new. That every time there's my wife is like, you got something, another Amiga thing in the mail.
Yeah.
Like every week is something. I can put my camera back here. Yeah. There's always new stuff. Oh yeah, you saw the mouse, right? You saw this is a tank mouse.
Yeah.
The new tank mouse, wireless tank, optical.
Yeah, it's really cool. Let's go back to here. If I go back to, I think there we go. Okay, cool.
Sean, I'm sorry, we kind of hopped there. Was there anything else that you had to share? Oh, muted.
Unmute you.
Sorry.
I went to Kansas Fest and got all jazzed up about the Apple II, got all pumped up, and I came back and I promptly spent like $300-400 on stuff.
Yeah.
Just for projects, and but no, I got a ton of stuff. I'll bring some stuff for the next show.
That's awesome. I'm excited to see all the new stuff. And you're right. You get back from these shows. If it's K-Fest, if it's Long Island Retro Show, if it's VCF East or Midwest that's coming up in like less than a month, all that energy of like reinvigoration in the hobby, which is really great because it nourishes you and keeps you going. So I'm glad that you had a good time at K-Fest. There was it was a year of firsts and stuff, and we had a great talk about it last time we were all together. So cool. All right, let me talk about some of my neat stuff, and then we'll get everybody on the road here. Hey everybody. Yep. Something that I've wanted since forever is a copy of this book, which is called Keep It Simple, The Early Design Years of Apple. This is all about frog design and all the neat stuff that they did. And what got me interested in this again is after, because this actually was brought up in one of the talks at K-Fest about all of the neat designs that Frog did for Apple as part of like the inspiration for the Apple IIc and all that. And something that was different about Frog design that they did that other companies didn't is when they were pitching these designs to Apple, they mocked up copies of them out of styrofoam. So it was like a physical 3D object that was sitting in front of you, which I'm sure really helped Apple make some decisions as they tried to transition away from kind of the HP inspired beige box stuff of like the early Apple II line and the Apple III, and kind of move into like that, the Snow White, the fog, like that new design language that they had, that just kind of made it like that was the next generation of machines. And this is what I remember the most, kind of going through school and like with the Apple IIgs and all that type of stuff. So I've wanted a copy of this book forever. They've also got, that's the original iPhone, the original Apple phone. But there's all kinds of great pictures. I did a video on my YouTube channel where people could just kind of check out. Like I basically I got a copy of the book on Galahad and just sat there and just on loan and just turned pages and let people go through. You can pause the video and watch. But I finally found one of these for less than like $150. And so this has been really great. It was brand new. I even took the shrink wrap off of it. So this is like one of my prized kind of Apple books now. Something else that I picked up recently is Androta, who is a big name in the Blue SCSI community, actually designed these replacement cards. This is a ComSlot 2 Ethernet card for Macintosh. This is Fishbot, that book is just full of prototype Apple stuff, designs that ended up being used for things and stuff that went nowhere, but it's pretty neat. But if you go out and you look at my channel, you can kind of get a preview of it. There doesn't appear to be a PDF version of it online, but there may be soon if I can convince Steve to scan some stuff. But this card right here kind of fills a nice gap, because there's a lot of machines that just have ComSlot that don't have Ethernet. So this is basically an Ethernet controller card that lets you get it's a ComSlot 2 card, that's already at the end. It was more expensive, they're rarer to find, but it's really nice. This card was not cheap, but it definitely fills a very specific need in our community, especially on machines that have limited PCI slots, because you might want to have gotta have PCI SATA controller, gotta have PCI video card for faster video, and on a lot of machines that's it. You just use both of your available slots. But having a solution for ComSlot networking really makes all the difference. You can use our Blue SCSI for networking and things like that, and that's very handy, but this is very fast. So I also contracted out and got more copies of my CD made, Dark Side of the Mac. This is just a bunch of, if you haven't heard this yet, you can listen to the whole album on my YouTube channel, but if you see me in person at an event, I probably will have these discs. This is a as ethically as you can be AI generated album. I wrote the songs. It was basically just utilizing AI from a company that actually partners with people and licenses their content from them, and then their AI is trained against that. AI is exploitive. That's just the bottom line. But there are ways to do it in the least exploitive way as possible. But this is free. This is a free. I'm not making any money off of it. So if you see me at a show, come up and get a disc. It's just a bunch of funny Macintosh and Apple II songs and a couple of like tongue-in-cheek, self-aggrandizing songs about my YouTube stuff. So you'll like it. It's maybe funny. And if nothing else, a drink sits right on top of it. No rings on your furniture, I promise. Unless you get rings, in which case I don't promise. Also got some new business cards. So that are kind of styled in the design of the cards that Apple used to give their employees in the 80s and 90s. So I'll have these. These are just for fun. But it's got my information about my channel and all that type of stuff on it. So that's that. The last thing that I'll talk about, and then we'll go ahead and bring this home, is if you are someone who is mad that the Pico Micromac adapters were out of stock over there on jcm-1.com, I'm here to tell you that they are 50 in stock. We pulled out all the stops to get them, more of them over there. If you don't know what Pico Micromac is, this is basically this is just an adapter that uses the Raspberry Pi Pico to emulate a Mac 128. So there is a project that is called UMac, which is an emulator, but there is a compiled version of this for the Pico Micromac version, which is the version of the emulator that runs on the Raspberry Pi Pico. So basically, there's a couple of different ways you can mount this up, but if you do it how I did it with this riser carrier, it's all designed to fit in a little space the size of like a stick of gum, or like a flash drive, or whatever small thing, 1/4 of a banana. I don't know, however Americans measure things. But there are a ton of these in stock right now. There's also a link off the project page on, if you actually look up the project for the Pico Micromac emulator, there's also a link off of jcm-1.com. Eric Helgeson of the Blue SCSI project was really nice. He actually made an automated system by which you can use an emulator and Basilisk 2 or Sheepshaver, whatever it is you like, to prep a disk for your virtual Mac 128, and it will compile it into a disk, and you get the disk file, or you get the image file. You just drag it over to the Pi, and that's it. Now you're ready to boot, and you can emulate and play on a machine. So it's a lot of fun. There's even like some demo images and stuff out there, so you can play around. But these were out of stock for a while. They're back in stock now. And that's it. Woohoo! All right. Why don't we take a minute and we'll go through and we will let everybody know where to find us online, and we'll go ahead and wrap this up. Javier.
8-Bit Tees. Where is it? Here. 8-Bit Tees. And now it's called also 8bitstuff.com, where I'm selling all my 3D generated things. So go over there, buy stuff, because if not, I'll send you Joe against you. Okay? Anyway, I'm going to be doing a lot of 3D stuff, new stuff coming out, and preparing a lot for BCF. We're going to have a lot of cool stuff in BCF Midwest. So you will go on and check us there.
I know.
That's
I'm very excited. You and our good friend Mark have all manner of fun things to talk about.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Sean. Oh, you're muted, sir.
Unmute.
Sorry, I turned myself off because of the background noise. But you can find me on Facebook and the Apple II Enthusiast page, and then I'm working on a project to have my own site here before too long.
That's awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing it. Bill.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. It's been a lot of fun. You can find me next Sunday. I'll be interviewing Jan from Amiga Kit. It's a really cool Amiga environment, emulation environment for the Raspberry Pi 5. That's twitch.tv/AmigaBill. Also, you'll be catching the Amiga news. I'll be posting it this week on my YouTube channel. It's at youtube.com/AmigaBill. Then all my social media links are at AmigaBill.tv. So just do AmigaBill.tv and all the links are there. Twitter, X, Facebook, the Twitch, both my YouTube channels, the Guru Meditation and AmigaBill. It's all there. So yeah, thanks for having me. It's been an absolute blast. And seeing that Raspberry Pi that you've got there, it's amazing like what the Raspberry Pi has done for like the retro community. It's incredible. It's
yeah,
so cool.
There's a million different projects now. It's so great. I remember when the original Pi came out, and it was kind of like people were like, "This is another Linux machine," and then people picked it up and ran and was like, "Oh no, you can do this, you can do that," and it's the
incredible.
emulation. It's just the options are endless, so it's very cool. So.
Thanks Scooby, thanks Fishbot, thanks Dave, appreciate that. Thanks Thomas. I'm glad you enjoyed the show.
Yeah, thank you everybody.
I hope I was good.
Yeah, no, you're a great guest. So
oh, good.
We'll have to have you back again after like some innovation, some new things. Have you on as a guest host, whatever. We'll get you here. So
I love it. Yeah, there's always new stuff happening, and yeah, good luck at VCF Midwest. That's one I really want to get to.
Yeah, you got to get there. It's going to be awesome. I've been telling Ash she needs to go too.
Yeah, yeah. Mike Lee, Mike Lee's one of those. He's a great guy. I love Mike Lee. Yeah. I heard nothing but great things about VCF Midwest.
Yeah,
I remember I was friends who've been going there for many years, and they're like, I showed up at VCF Midwest, and like the first thing they did was hand me a beer.
Yeah, it is the superb owl of VCF events. I mean, all the VCF events are great. They have their own special flavor and things like that. But this one is just massive. It's just huge. It's like going to Comdex in the 90s. It's like going to CES in the 90s. Mm-hmm. It's just this huge, overwhelming thing that you will walk away because you need a break and then come back and then just like back into the fray. So, but it is a lot of fun, and folks should get there, but folks should get to East. East is an amazing event. Southwest. I mean, all of these great new VCF events, people need to get out there and support them, because if you don't, they go away. Mm-hmm. And that even extends to, I can't go to whatever. A lot of these places just have a tip cup. Throw $5 in. Or better yet, get a ticket and give it away. Mm-hmm. You know, somebody that lives in the area that's on the fence about going, buy a ticket, give it to them, let them go and have fun. So keep kind of like watering that tree for the community. But my name is Ron. I'm from Ron's Computer Videos and various other places, and you can find out what I'm doing at ronscompvids.com. So. Everybody, thank you once again. Thank you to our audience this evening. Thank you to Amiga Bill. Thank you to Javier and to Sean for taking time out. We'll be back in 2 weeks. I don't remember who our guest is going to be at that time, but we'll probably make an announcement here in the next.
An awesome guest, just like now.
Oh, okay. Sounds like it. But again, our condolences for guests that weren't able to be here. Trina was under the weather today. Joe has been covered over with work, and Rudy, who made his triumphant return, had to go sell a car today. So everybody was a little busy. So, but we're glad that Bill took time out of his already busy day to spend it with us.
Thank you, Bill. Yes.
Yeah,
my pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. Scarlett, Scooby, I'll be sure. Amiga Cami. The Amiga Cami is the best. They show up. Amiga Cami gets up at the crack of dawn to watch my streams because she comes in from the future down there in Australia. So
yeah,
she's dedicated.
All right. Awesome. We'll end it. Actually, this is like, it's how things used to end, where they just cuts off. So, but everybody have a wonderful evening. Oh, there's Joe. Hey. All right, everybody.